The United Nations has said that aid has dropped by 67%. That's a lot of aid. I mean, since the operation in Rafah began. Doesn't that tell you that these, I'm sorry to call it this way, but band-aid kind of solutions, like the pier and so on, they have no long-term effect. They're subject to all kinds of weather or, mishap or whatever it is. And the only way are really the, land crossings. Isn't that the case now? Isn't that the proof?
As I said when answering Leon's question, when the pier was anchored and functioning, it allowed the provision of 1,000 metric tons of humanitarian aid. Also, I was pretty clear up here, as has Matt, as has Secretary Blinken, when we were talking about the JLOTS process and it being established, that this administration is one in which we are pursuing an all-of-the-above approach when it comes to humanitarian aid. At no point since the onset of this conflict have we tried to make the case that a maritime corridor or a pier establishment of a pier system was meant to replace or supersede land route crossings, and that's why we continue to work around the clock to make sure that those land crossings are open as swiftly as possible as well.
Right. I mean, you guys said time and again that it's not an alternative to land crossing.
Correct. But that continues to be the case.
Why not? Then why not bring to bear whatever abilities you have, whatever pressure you have on the Israelis to allow more aid to go through the crossings, the land crossings, or your Egyptian ally, or whatever. I mean, whatever land crossing there is available.
We are continuing to engage exactly in that kind of diplomacy to turn on and to open as many crossings as we can, and we'll continue to pursue that.
And do you feel that, we can see the reopening or the resumption of aid through these crossings anytime soon? Do you have a...
Said, it's important to note that aid is flowing among the crossings that exist. On May 29th, a total of 325 trucks crossed into Gaza. Certainly, I'm not indicating that that is enough or enough to alleviate the dire situation in Gaza, but aid is flowing, and we are continuing to work around the clock with partners in Egypt and Israel to do what we can to make sure other vital crossings are open and can open as swiftly as possible. Simultaneously, we're doing everything we can to repair and retrofit this pier and make sure that it can be re-anchored as swiftly as possible as well. And I'm sure my colleagues at the Department of Defense can speak to you a little bit more precisely about that process.
Now, there is a CNN New York Times investigation that determined that the weapons used in Rafah were American weapons, the GPU 39, whatever. Do you have any comment on that? Because yesterday, I think the Secretary said he was not sure yet whether it was American-made weapons and so on, something like that. So what is your position today?
So I'm going to let the IDF speak to their investigation, including what pieces.
I'm asking you about, is this a U.S. weapon, as far as you know?
Again, it is not for us to speak to. We can't speak to individual weapons loadouts to Israeli aircraft. So I will let the IDF speak to their investigation findings and indicate, including anything that they have to share about what weapons were used. I just don't have an assessment to do that.
And lastly, does it bother you guys when former officials, high-profile officials, like the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, writes on a bomb, finish them off? Or when someone that's still, like a senator, U.S. senator, says drop a nuclear bomb on them and so on. I mean, like in a final solution kind of a thing. Does that really bother you? Do you feel disgust? Do you feel that, maybe you ought to issue a statement? If somebody said this about any other group of people and so on, I think you would probably be disgusted. You would say, this is terrible, this is awful. What is your position on what they say?
Said, Ambassador Haley is a private citizen, and what we're focused on is the diplomacy and the task at hand. We're focused on doing everything we can to get this conflict to end, to secure a ceasefire that is coupled with the release of hostages, a ceasefire that can be coupled with an additional influx of humanitarian aid, one that ensures Palestinians in Gaza are protected, have their humanitarian needs met, a ceasefire that will help identify a vision for the post-conflict of Gaza, a Gaza that can no longer be a springboard of terrorism, and a Gaza where Palestinians and in a separate state, Israelis can live with equal measures of security and prosperity. That's what we're focused on.
Can I just